the thing with politics is like, as much as I want to avoid it, it is an unavoidable part of life.
Just like with money, like money's unavoidable.
Yeah.
As much as we can like be like, feel so kind of like dumb or like uneducated around it. It's like, we have to engage with it. We have to engage with money. We have to engage with food. And honestly, we have to engage with politics because we live in a society that is ruled by a government. We go back, like way back, 21 years back. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Kelly. And we have been friends long enough to know that that kind of connection is rare.
We've recognized a pattern that we can come together feeling overwhelmed and jaded by life, but can walk away from our conversations feeling elevated and fulfilled. Our goal is to have our listeners share in that experience with each episode.
This podcast is our love letter to each other. It has been years in the making, and finally the stars have aligned, and we like to open up our conversations to you. We intend to build a community where no topic is off the table.
In a world where discomfort is actively avoided, therapy is not accessible to many, yet you should talk to a therapist, is a reflex response that denies connection. We have found that talking it out has been a form of free therapy in itself.
We dive into topics like death, divorce, disordered eating, debt, and every taboo topic in between, all while balancing the scales with our tongue-in-cheek humor.
With that, who's ready to get taboo?
Yay.
How you been, dude?
Been pretty solid, you know, lots of changes in my life, just leaning into it and rolling with it, as I'm sure most people know if they listened to our last episode. How are you?
I am great. I got the passcode. I know Steph's birthday.
Oh, she was so honored.
Well, I was trying to put in my passcode and then I was trying to put in Kevin's. And those weren't working.
I mean,
so that was crazy.
That would make it harder to break into my shit if I used Kevin's birthday. Is he the 5th of October?
8th. He's the day after.
So he's the 8th. I always get him and Hannah mixed up. My like mom's partner's daughter, she's the 5th. It's like that first week. It's like all of us New Year's babies just need to like fucking chill. All of us need to fucking chill.
No, I love it.
Because September is like the most common month to have a birthday because you're a Christmas baby. And then
I didn't know that's why.
Mm-hmm. And you're either Christmas or New Year's if you're September. And then like October, I was overdue. Like I was overcooked.
Okay, so you were like a New Year's baby, but
I was a New Year's Eve baby, but
She was
overcooked.
right.
But that's why like September is so common is because it's like early September, you're a Christmas baby. Late September, like around
New Year's.
You're New Year's.
And then November is all the Valentine's babies.
Correct. Yep. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep. And then, it's just so I love looking at those patterns. Like, what are the most like common versus uncommon birthdays around your time? Not super common.
No,
because nobody maps out to have basically a Valentine's Day baby.
Yeah.
Right. Like nobody, if anything, it's like babies are made on Valentine's Day.
Correct.
A lot.
Yeah. No,
which
I was
would put you at
conceived on
what?
my dad's birthday.
Oh, so a May baby. Cute.
Yeah.
I love. Oh yeah, because Kathleen's later in February, and she is a Mother's Day.
Okay. That's a different one.
Raunchy.
I mean, I guess it's your day.
I mean, I guess, but
Get
like
it,
also
Steph.
my mom and Chris had just gotten back together and my mom was a mom, but not with Chris's child. So I think it's weird that he's like, all right.
He's like, I'm going to make you a mom to my child.
Oh my God.
Honestly, get it.
Thank God. I don't think that Chris
Man, he knew what he wanted.
Because he'd probably die hearing that. Hi, bully.
This
Jesus.
mic is going to be the death of me.
Yeah.
I know. Just make one thing clear. This is not going well.
It's like, when I set it up, I wonder if I like, they're usually bent in the other direction. No, that wouldn't like,
I don't know.
We're not going to do it in the episode.
It's not today.
Anyway, shit's getting weird up here.
But yeah, well, it's funny because my parents like claim to like when they first met or their first date was Cinco de Mayo.
Oh.
So then a few years ago, I finally asked my dad because my dad's birthday is May 16th. I'm like, so had you guys been together a year or like 2 weeks? And he's like 2 weeks.
Oh,
and I'm like,
there it is.
Oh shit.
That tracks. That tracks. That's fine.
Yeah.
Wait, they got pregnant with you 2 weeks after they'd been together?
Yeah. And then my mom didn't know she was pregnant with me until she was like almost into the second trimester. Like she was like over 3 months pregnant.
Oh my God. Jesus.
Still like out playing soccer. Like
just had no idea.
No idea.
That she had a full butt in the oven. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I feel like our moms had it. Well, how old was your mom? Your mom?
23.
Yeah.
22, 23.
Yeah. Like our moms were like not so young, but like younger when they had us. You know, you're not going to fucking show until you're like 6 months pregnant. Yeah. Like I mean, I don't know. I remember when my mom was pregnant with Kathleen, like you didn't even know she was pregnant until probably like 5 or 6 months. And then it was like, oh,
now you have a bun.
Now I understand. It's just so wild to me. Ugh.
It's just like you just look a little bloated.
Yeah. Which like I already exist like that. So maybe if I ever get pregnant, it'll just like hide.
No, when girls are like do their pregnancy announcement and they are like their little bump is like me on a good day.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
I can't relate.
Yo, I like embrace if I ever have
like,
a
good
child.
For you, girl.
I'm gonna be a hot mess, dude. I'm gonna be bloated. I'm gonna eat whatever the fuck I'm gonna be. I don't know that I'm gonna carry it gracefully.
It gives you a reason to lean into the bloat.
Right. And I also just like, I feel like the girls that like don't look super pregnant are the ones that have like really skinny legs and you only know they're pregnant from like the side or like looking at them head on. Like from the back, like you
could never tell.
Yeah. No. Like I don't know that I'm gonna be that girl.
No.
That's where I carry like weight anyway. So like I'm like, I think I'm gonna just like lean into looking hella pregnant if I ever get pregnant.
Yeah, that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
It's
and pregnant chicks are so cute.
Well, and I've heard too, like women talk about like being pregnant in the summer is honestly such a blessing because you don't have to worry about how your stomach looks in a bikini because you're just pregnant.
Yo,
I'm like, that's brilliant.
That's kind of
yeah.
Like,
you kind of like dodge bikini season.
Well,
like,
and then think about the
scaries.
fact that like if you, I mean, again, I have like a bias, obviously, like I live for the fall time, but if you're really, really pregnant during the summer, that means you're having a fall baby. So like that's fucking dope.
And then when you like have to like wear your baby, like it's cozy time.
It's winter.
So you can be like in a sweater because you have a little like heater.
You're only proving more. Like, I'm sorry, but like fall, I have babies in the fall.
Yeah.
Fall birthdays are great.
Libra, Scorpio, and Sag.
Hot.
Yes.
Hot.
All of them. Sign me up.
It depends, right? Sag, yes. I'm like, I would love to. Sag is like my like favorite.
Yeah, who are you?
Scorpios are weird.
I'm sure I'll have a Scorpio child because I have Scorpio on the Descendant.
Yeah.
So like all my relationships kind of like are Scorpio coded. Kev has a Scorpio placement. Like it's a fixed sign. I have very fixed placements. It's like the one area where I don't have a lot of.
So you think your baby's going to be a Scorpio baby?
Yeah.
What baby do you think I'll have? What sign?
You'll probably have one with like Leo or Aquarius placements.
Oh, hot.
You'll probably end up with an Aquarius baby. Honestly, any of the fixed signs are up for grabs, I think. Yeah, or Cardinal. You have both that you could pull from.
Okay, like I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but then Kev has like a Sagittarius Mars, so I feel like Sag is definitely up for grabs.
I will literally plan to have
There's a lot of like
baby.
Mutable energy in my family, so Sag Gemini is very prominent in my family.
Love a good Sagittarius. It's been coming up a lot. So the other night I was downtown with my mom and I walked by this bar and it like sparked this memory I had of a friend of mine. Shit. Yeah, it sparked this like memory.
Like you end up you access a part of your brain that has not been accessed.
Well, and here's the thing. This guy, like he has like tried to date me before, like in between of like yeah. And he tried to date me before and it like did not work out at all. And like we just are really good friends. Like we have really good like chemistry in terms of like friendship and having fun together.
Yes, yeah.
It's because he's a Sagittarius. But anyway, I walked by this bar and he had told me about it and I was like, oh my God. I haven't talked to him in years. And I was like, I'm going to reach out to him and just be like, oh my God, I walked by this bar because it's closed now. And he was like, it's the best bar in Portland. I was like, obviously,
I love getting those texts from people.
Right.
Like, I love that. And people are like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. And they never text or whatever. But it's like, no, I love getting those texts from people when they're like, hey, walked by this place, made me think of you. And it doesn't need to be a whole conversation, but just like that little, like, it's just endearing. I love it.
I always love to do that. Like, it doesn't matter if it's been a really long time. If there's something that makes me think of someone, I'm going to fucking tell them. Yeah. And so I texted him and I was like, oh my God, I just walked by this bar. It's been so long. I hope you're doing well. It made me think of you, whatever. But he like is like just an overly flirty person to where like, I'm going to have that conversation again. I just, it's just not there. And, but he was like, hey, are you by chance a Libra? And I was like, yeah, you freak. Did I also just like a man asking me a question like that? I'm like, I either don't trust you and you're trying to get in my pants or like, how do you know all these things? Yeah. This like never happens. And
I need more.
Yeah. He was like, are you by chance a Libra? And I was like, I am a Libra. How did you know that? I told you I must have. And he was like, no, you didn't. He was like, something really crazy happened though. He's like, I just recently went to like a psychic for fun with a bunch of friends. And he was like, the psychic told me what I'm seeing like happen in the near future is that an old friend that is a Libra is going to come back into your life and fuck your shit up. And I was like, I just think that's super weird. And he was like, and then he like had to make it weird. And he was like, yeah, apparently like Libras and Sagittarius have like incredible chemistry. And I'm like, I do see why they would get along really well. Yeah. Like they're
air and fire signs just get along well.
Yeah. And
like, it's they're complementary.
And I feel like Sag and Libras are both people that like like to party or be the life of the party or like to be socialized. Correct. But like Sagittarius make it less serious, where Libra's like, they take it. There's a strategy. Yeah, exactly.
With Sag, they just fucking show up.
Yeah. And it's like, so it's
very off the cuff. There's a lot of like action without thought.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's fun.
Which is good. Like, I think that's good. They don't overthink things. They just show up.
Yeah. And it like kind of like is like a way for like Libras to touch some grass and remember that it's not that serious.
Yeah.
But anyway, isn't that first of all, like a guy going to a psychic?
But I think, go ahead. There's
that's just it.
There's so many things here.
I just thought it was so funny that like I randomly reached out completely just by chance. Something sparked me remembering him. And like, again, we've like gone on a couple dates and it just didn't work. But like someone I would totally be friends with. And we have a really close mutual friend. And, and for him to be like, oh, by the way, are you a Leo? We had not talked. We had not been having conversations. Nothing with astrology. For him to ask me that. And we're not friends on Facebook, because I even did that. I was like, I bet he went and like looked at my whole birthday.
Thing. Yeah. No. And like, well, I just think it's funny because like it might be one of those things that like for you, it's like, it's nothing. But like for him, maybe there's like deeper thoughts, feelings, or like desires there.
No, that's what I'm thinking.
And so it's like, that's what's going to fuck him up, is like him like having this like, oh, I just want to make that thing like work or like act on it. And it's just like, you're for him like unattainable.
Well, and that's the thing that's like weird being on the other side of it. Yeah, like it's kind of weird just because like it was like, oh my God, like, you know, I think that psychic stuff is so interesting. And for him to be like, and he was genuinely like, he was like, no, this is kind of freaking me out. He was like, because you randomly reached out to me over nothing. And he was like, and then I remembered that like literally last week a group of friends and I went to a psychic and they said, a Libra friend is going to come back into your life and fuck your shit up. And he was like, and I just had to ask you because you're the only person that has randomly reached out to me and forever. And I was just like, what is going on that these weird little things like keep happening in my life? And then I had the same thought though, where I'm like, oh my God, fuck his shit up. And then like, I feel like he's trying to like get back into like, oh, we went on a couple dates. Maybe we can like
rekindle.
Literally never.
Yeah.
Unless he wants to be like, never.
Yeah, it's just not
I'm just not interested. Yeah. But like it was so weird and funny. Like, cause it was completely like, I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reach out to him.
Yes.
And then for him, like he's a Sagittarius.
Yeah.
So that was the thing, is that he was just like, well, I just think it's so funny because like I've just been told about how like there's some lame line about like how like the chemistry between Libras and Sagittarius is so incredible. And I was like, well, like, yeah, one of my best friends in the world is a double Sagittarius. Yes. I agree. I was like, but they really make really great friends too. Just like so
friend zone hard.
It's just
honestly, that is such a power move. Honestly, the girls need to be out here doing that more.
I'm just like, it's not even
good on you. Well, you just recognize, because I think it's hard, like when someone is like being forward and like is actively interested or like likes you when you don't have that same, it's not reciprocal. Yeah. It's hard to be like, nah.
It's really hard for me. Like, I'm like, oh my God, any like sniff of a human connection or the possibility to have a flirtationship.
Yeah. It's like, you know, how many times in middle school did you like someone because they liked you first? I'm like, oh yeah, I like you back. I was not even remotely interested until I found out you were interested in me. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm
going to be really honest with you. And I don't mean this in like a woe was me type way. That didn't happen often. I have like really specific guys that like the guys that liked me a lot, but I didn't, I wasn't one that people,
I was kind of weird. Clingers.
You know,
did you get clingers? I got guys I would like, I was not with, but they like liked me from afar and would like write me like poems or like really like detailed love letters.
0 poems have been written for me in my lifetime. I also like just,
there was a lot of romance in my middle school days. Like I was courted.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
I was courted?
Yes.
That's crazy.
I know.
Was there one that like, but okay, here's how toxic I am. Like the few times I have, like, I know that a guy likes me and like, I don't know that I've ever really, sometimes I wonder if I've ever liked anyone and I just like the attention. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I think
that's mostly what it is. Like the attention's really nice. And like, I'm like, oh yeah, I like you back. No, I like you giving me attention.
Right. And I'll let it keep going.
You as a human, not interested.
Yeah. No, I honestly could take you or leave you. But like, if you're going to sit here and flirt.
No, it's
like,
kind of sick of me.
I need to meet someone that like, we are nothing to each other, but people that can flirt. Like
that's
actively.
Hot.
I just want
a flirtationship is honestly hot on its own. It doesn't need to be more.
I just think it's so
like
sexy.
A good practice. Like someone you can, it's like going to the gym as far as like relationship goes. Yeah. Like you just need someone who you can flirt with and keep you on your game.
Yeah. Like I just really want to like compliment people and I love some attention and I love all of that. And like my problem is that I go from like that I do really well, but then I jump right into let's date for the next 5 years and then I'll have my shit fucked up. At like I need to leave it at flirting. It needs to be left at flirting. That's all I want. It's what I do. I need the freedom to flirt with other people. We've talked about like cheating before, and like I feel like where I get really close to cheating is when I miss flirting with people. I want to flirt with you. Let me actively flirt. Don't make it weird. Just roll with it and we'll be fine. You know?
Yeah.
It's not weird.
It's healthy.
Oh, it's healthy. Feels so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a tangent.
I'm looking for a segue into our topic for today. There's no segue.
We're gonna be full. I was gonna try and be
politicians witty. Are flirty.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're flirting with scrutiny because of the topic that we're about to cover. I would say,
all right, we'll take it. Transition.
Cool. I would say it's our most taboo topic.
Yeah. So who's ready to get taboo?
Who's ready to get taboo?
Yeah, we want to talk politics.
Let's go, baby.
Like the number one thing you're told to never talk about, that and religion. Like just don't mention it.
Yeah.
And money, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things that like how could we call ourselves Let's Get Taboo if we're not gonna like get into this?
Yeah, like truly, we were like, you know, voice memoing back and forth this week, and we were like, oh, well, like what topics would you want to do? And I was like, I don't want to do politics.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. I can't, especially during an election year. Mm-hmm. We are a few months out and we live in a really weird country where shit is always on fire.
Yeah. And I feel like we live in a really politically active area.
Well, yeah, I think that living in the Pacific Northwest is a whole other layer, right? There's so many layers to talking politics. But I did not want to do it. And she had to be like, we literally have a podcast called Let's Get Taboo, and we are avoiding topics that are too taboo. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't.
It's sacrilege.
Yeah. And you just have to, I think this is going to be different than we're not going to sit here
and act like we know anything.
Correct. I think know nothing.
It's a more of like, we want to get into like our experience with it and not to like sit here and talk about like our political views or like what we believe in necessarily.
Yeah.
But like more about like our experience and relationship with politics.
Right.
And I think I'm like one of the classics, like I'm like, I get interested on an election year. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I've been a lot more engaged or a lot more interested than I have been really ever because it's an election year.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a really pivotal year, but, and I'm honestly, I'm like interested in the astrology behind it. And like, I mean, less about the actual politics, the Chloe parts of politics. But, like, I think what happens a lot with politics is like, you're told, don't ever bring this up at a dinner party. Mm-hmm. And then B, like, you're kind of made to feel like, okay, if you aren't like engaged and active in it, you're a piece of shit and like not a good citizen and uneducated.
And not doing your due diligence.
Yeah, but also don't talk about it.
Right.
So it's like, so how am I supposed to learn besides like from like, I don't know, these news stations that I don't even know that I really trust anymore because they've become, I have a really hard time when things are not like, when I'm not getting objective information.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time when it's like, really heavily influenced by like one like side of the argument or the other. Cause then I feel like I have to watch everything and like get everybody's take on it. But
and I do think it's like, it's hard for me because I am someone that I love journalism and I wanted it to do it for so long. And I respect journalism and the integrity around it. And I just think I'm not trying to be political here, but I do think that the way that journalism is practiced has shifted so much.
I was just going to ask you if you feel like it's changed.
It's changed a lot. And I think a lot of it has to do with money. And I think a lot of it has to do with social media and how much access we have to the world now. Like worldwide news has been a thing for quite some time, but I think a whole nother layer was added once we all were able to have social media. And it's just changed what we view journalism as. And so I think it's a little harder for like our generation and younger that it's like I don't think that we're experiencing like neutrality in journalism like there once was.
Used to be. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And that's what's hard because then I feel like I have to question everything which I think you should have a healthy amount of like questioning when you receive information. Like I think you should question what you're like hearing and not just take everything at face value.
Correct.
But I feel like there's like almost this, it's like a hyper awareness or like a hypersensitivity to any information that comes in. Like I feel like I don't trust anything. Like I don't trust any news headline. I don't trust like what a lot of people are saying, or I think there's more behind it. Yeah. And I think that's just part of like the landscape, maybe that like what it's like kind of evolved into right now. But like I find it very interesting that like the one thing that we're like always like preached to or told is that to be a good citizen or to be a good human, you need to be involved politically, but also don't talk about it with your friends. But like for me, talking about things with you or with, with other friends or family is how I learn so much.
Correct. Same.
And it helps me form my own opinions. Cause I can take something that you said and like take what resonates and form my own opinion that way. But I feel like with politics, it's really hard to do that because it has become an area where people get so angry and so reactive and volatile that you can't even have the conversation.
Right. No, I mean, at all. I think that it's become another way, unfortunately. And again, I think it's just, I told you this earlier when we were voice memoing, and it's just like important for me to say in here is that I don't have all the information, and I'm not a well-versed person in the world of politics for reasons that I'm sure I'm going to talk about in this episode. But, it's hard to talk about it when I don't feel like I know it all, because I don't want to sound ignorant. And I really want to own the fact that like, I don't know a lot. I only can speak to like my own experience. And that I'm totally okay with that. But like, it's just the thing with politics is like, as much as I want to avoid it, it is an unavoidable part of life.
Just like with money, like money's unavoidable. As much as we can like be like, feel so kind of like dumb or like uneducated around it. It's like, we have to engage with it. We have to engage with money. We have to engage with food. And honestly, we have to engage with politics because we live in a society that is ruled by a government. Right. And I think that's important. I think like when you have such a high population of humans, you have to have some like rules to live by, rules of engagement. Right. And I, in other like animal groups, like there is, I don't know that you would call it like politics, but there is kind of like an understanding or like a hierarchy or like a socially acceptable way to engage and behave that is protective for your life and for the way the group functions. So it's our nature. It's kind of like what we're saying is it's unavoidable, but we are not the expert. We're not here to teach anybody anything. We're just here to like talk about our experience with it.
And why is it like, again,
and question.
And like
ask questions.
Why
be curious.
Is it taboo?
Yeah.
What is it like in our opinion, based on our experiences and like how we view the world? What is it? And I don't even know that I really have the answer yet. So I'm hoping that like by us talking about it, maybe I can come to like some more conclusions or insights on my own. Yeah. Because that's the best. And that's why you should talk about everything with people you love and care about, and nothing should be taboo. But I want to know like I'm curious to see where we get and like, what is it about politics that makes people so fucking uncomfortable? I think there's obvious answers, but then I think that there's also deeper ones.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the more obvious ones that comes to mind for me is I think people are uncomfortable in disagreement. Yeah. Or conflict. Yes. Like we've talked about in our conflict episode, like it's really uncomfortable to like have a conflict or a disagreement with someone, but it's also really healthy. Yeah. And it's really important to like exercise that ability to like talk through something. But I think when it comes to like something like politics, people are, I think there's a couple things like, I think religion has gotten so kind of tangled up in it when the whole point was to have like separation of church and state.
Could not agree more.
Somewhere someone forgot that, and then like we are where we are.
Or they just intended from the beginning to make sure that didn't actually happen. Yeah. Not to be cynical, but I do.
But maybe. Yeah, exactly. So I just think that that's an interesting piece. And I think when you bring like emotion into something or like someone's religion into something, something that should be more objective, it's really muddy. So like when someone is questioning or, I don't know, making you think about like your political belief when you're like other like faith identity is wrapped up in that. I think when someone's questioning that, it feels like your character is under attack.
Correct. I agree.
So it becomes like this, like not hostile, but like people go on the defense maybe a little bit more.
It gets prickly.
It gets prickly. And I think it's healthy to like, what to me like says that you're secure in yourself is when you can hear information that someone else presents to you and you kind of think about it and be like, and kind of compare it against what you already hold to be true and then decide which truth you want to accept going forward.
Right.
It's like every piece of new information that comes in along the way, you kind of weigh it against what you already hold to be true. It's like, science, like, okay, does this like trump what we already believed to be the theory that we're basing everything off of, or is this new theory like more accurate?
Right. Yeah.
So you're kind of fine tuning along the way.
Right.
Where I think it gets dangerous is where you don't have the ability to like consider things against what you hold to be true because it feels like a threat to your identity.
Yeah. Well, and I think that something that is really huge, why politics can become such a divisive issue or a taboo issue, is that, I mean, at the end of the day, they are covering everything that matters to people.
True.
Bodily autonomy, romantic relationships, it's human rights, it's freedom, it's so finances. It is literally politics are what determine our lifestyle.
Part of your life. Yeah.
And I think that obviously when there are politicians, policies built like legislation. See, even my vernacular is not great. When people's rights, like basic human rights, are under attack or could possibly be on the line, I mean, I do think it's valid to feel reactive about that and threatened by that.
Because and
here's where
or to feel like a specific politician is attacking your way of living.
Correct.
Or values that are important to you. And I think they're sitting up there saying, these are wrong, these people are wrong, and we need to do it this way.
Or I'm going to take this from you. Yeah. Or you have no right to this thing. Only certain groups can touch this certain thing because of how you were born or how you look.
Yeah.
And I will
or who you
say,
love or
Yeah. And like, oh God, even that is just like kind of like I'm getting a little heated already. I need to chill. But like, I think where I really struggle is you brought up, people are really uncomfortable with disagreeing. And I do agree with you. And I think that it is really important. And this is me saying this. I need to remember that because there are times where, yes, I think it's important to be able to disagree with people, but where I struggle and I don't have an answer, I still haven't figured it out. And I'd love to know your thoughts on it, is like, what about when someone is voting for or loves or supports someone who is who a part of their like role as a politician or their beliefs is like taking away like a basic human right from someone. Like what, so it's like, yeah, okay, we can like agree to disagree to an extent, right? I think it is important to be able to agree to disagree, but it's like, I also understand people being like, yo, I'm Black. Yeah. And I'm like being treated differently. And there are laws being put in place to keep me at the bottom.
Or I'm a woman.
I'm a woman. Like that's where this is coming from. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, okay, I personally struggle with like agree to disagree when it's like you're supporting someone that hates a group of people or that is like actively working to make sure that their lives are harder in some way. What do we do about that? Right. Because isn't it kind of valid to be like, it does, unfortunately, I'm not saying it's correct. I'm not for cancel culture, any of that shit. But I do think that a person's political beliefs speak to their character. Just like you said, like when people talk about politics, they feel like their character's attacked. It is a part of your character. So what do we do about being like right now, America is such a divided place politically. How is it even possible to agree to disagree when we are so separated? I guess is my question.
Yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying. And it's one of those things where it's like, I think people are bringing like sometimes their own like personal beliefs and thinking that their way of thinking is like what should be the blanket, so I think that's what happens when like someone else's rights are being in question infringed on. Exactly, that's a really good way to put it, is like they think that this is the right way to do it, so they almost think that it's the government's job to like be this like moral high horse to keep everybody in line because they think this is how people should operate. Like they look down morally on like other groups. And so they think, and this is my interpretation. This is like, I'm just kind of like hypothesizing, but it's like, so for them, it's like, if this is the way to live, then everybody should live this way and the government should like uphold that, which I do disagree with. But I think like when you consider where the other person's coming from, it's like, like for instance, I heard this argument like during, like kind of all the, like when we were really in the heat of COVID, and it was like, someone was like, honestly, the both ends of the spectrum of like the COVID politics, it's really coming from a place of love. Like people who think everybody should get vaccinated, they want to save everybody and they believe that the vaccine is the answer for that. Right. People who don't want to get vaccinated believe that there is something dangerous about the vaccine and they don't want other people to get vaccine injuries. Right. And they want what's best for everyone. So both sides have this belief that is founded in like basically love for humanity.
And they have that in common.
Yeah. And it's the same thing, but their approach is different. But like the vitriol between both sides, like the whole thing gets lost. Yeah. Because people are so concerned about like being right.
Yeah. I do agree that being right is
so
trumping.
Not true, because you can look at both sides and like see the truth in both sides. Like there were like so many vaccine injuries. There were also so many people that died. Like there was, you know, from like not having maybe access to that, like you can look at it both ways. But what's problematic is when that becomes like politicized. Yeah. You know, because it takes it out of it. One thing that was hard for me during that time was like the issue of bodily autonomy and kind of like the, I think when you look generally to the past of like what the more conservative side of the argument has been, it's more hands-off government or more limited government. Yeah. But I felt like in the last couple of election cycles, there's this kind of, dissonance, like a cognitive dissonance between like different issues. Like they're kind of picking where they think the government should have a say and where it shouldn't, rather than staying consistent. Right. So to me, it's like, if you believe in hands-off government and you believe that everybody should have the right to choose whether they're vaccinated and it shouldn't be mandated, I think the same then extends to women and like women's body issues. Thank you. Because those are the same things.
Because it's the same.
And it was interesting. There was I was listening to a podcast and they kind of like interview all different kinds of people. They don't like have they just bring everybody on and like let people from all like sides, opinions, everything just kind of like come on and like they just have the conversation, which I just think is cool. Yeah. Like I think that is a really healthy way. Anyway, so they had on this, she's been on Fox News, like that's kind of like where she's been, but she got like, she got her show canceled when she was on The View and said that she believes in, like women's right to choose. Yeah. Because she believes in limited government. And that got her show canceled. Damn. And she was like, I just like said that I believe in limited government, which is a conservative value. Yeah. But because some conservatives believe that that's not like that is exempt. Wow. Then she got canceled. But to me, it's like, no, that is like she is consistent and has integrity in like what she believes. Right. Which is maybe not everything that I believe, but I respect her opinion because she's consistent.
Right. She's not cherry picking everything. She wants the politics to line up perfectly with her beliefs. And unfortunately, I also don't think that's super possible with like a two-party system to have I definitely every single belief that you have. Like, I mean, there are people that are consistently conservative or consistently very liberal. And I'm not saying one is right or wrong or like that, whatever, but I am saying like, I don't know a lot about this. I'm not anti or for it, but it does seem like we're talking about human life and all the different parts of human life to allow us to be fulfilled. And you're telling me that it only takes two parties to cover
everything.
Yeah. And that there's no crossover. Yeah. Like I don't know what that looks like, but I feel like you're bound to have crossover. And I feel like when I talk to people, there is more crossover now than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like where there are at least there's a lot of people in my life who it's like, you know, there are the few that are like hardcore. I live in Portland, Oregon. Like most of the people in my life are very liberal.
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable saying that.
Yeah.
But you know, what about the occasional like, oh, I actually don't align with this with liberals. And I think for the most part, people just like vote for like, well, majority wise, what party covers the most things that align with me. But it's, man, I just really, really struggle with, you know, the hostility that is between, you know, people disagreeing. And I think that it has gone really, really far. But also like as someone who is really reactive or like I think everyone, it's like the issues that you're the most passionate about, they really get you fired up. Yeah. So it's like for me, sometimes it's hard because I am so passionate about like women's bodily autonomy and their right to choose. And so like it's hard for me, admittedly, to have respect for someone who supports a side that wants to eliminate that. Yeah. I don't fucking understand. And it's like, but I also know that like, I can't, as much as my brain, because it's easy to go to, they're a terrible person, fuck them, never talk to me again. Yeah. Honestly, there is that part of me that's like, but what is that doing? Yeah. Like, is there a way? I don't know what the answer is. All I want with politics is I want there to be a way that I can have that conversation or have the tools to have that conversation and not go right to primitive, childish, fuck you, I don't like you because you're saying things that make me upset. Yeah. You know?
But I love that you like are saying that because I think a lot of people don't even have like the bandwidth to articulate that or identify that feeling that that's what's happening.
Yeah. Like I'm getting, it's an issue that it is an issue that affects me and the people I love the most because I'm in a family of all females, right? Yeah. So like I am going to be defensive and mad and angry because my rights are getting taken away. But I think that there is something to be said that like we get the most angry about the things that affect us directly. And then like the other things fall in line. Yeah. And so I have no interest in giving my time to someone who just outwardly is like, okay, attacking a group of people. Yeah. I don't have a tolerance for that. Yeah. But what I will say is that, you know, like if I'm talking to someone that I know their politics don't align with mine, I don't even consider myself a political I don't fucking know, you know, but it's like, I just am frustrated because I don't have I don't know how to do that. Right. Because I have grown up. Like when you think about it, we haven't been in the world of politics and like adulthood
very long. We've been able to vote. This is like the third presidential election cycle we've been able to vote on.
12, 14. This is my fourth. Your birthday's later than mine because I was 18 the month before the 2012 election. So I voted for Obama. I couldn't
vote for that one. Yeah, that's right.
So this will be my fourth, which like, okay, that kind of is a lot because that's 12 years right there. But like,
but still, that's like, but like two of those election cycles were the same president. And now it's like, again, we are in another one where it's like the same, like one of the same candidates is running again.
And do we want to talk about like, I mean, my first election I voted in was Obama. I was 18 years old and I voted for Obama because I'm from Portland and that's what everyone told me to do.
And I didn't think anything else of it.
I mean, like, nothing against him.
But nothing against him. And like the same thing, I think that's kind of been my, like, I guess, approach. Yeah. Also, because I think when you live in a place that is like, swings so hard one way or the other, it kind of feels taboo to like say that you're for the other side.
To go against the grain.
Yeah, exactly. Like to be in like a super conservative place and like have more liberal views or vice versa is like a very, it's very taboo and it's very hard to talk about. And you kind of like put yourself in if you are vocal about it, you kind of sometimes can put yourself in a position where you're a target.
I mean, I feel that way right now. Like we're having this conversation and my brain is like, don't say something that makes you sound like a privileged fuck who has who can't think about other people. Don't say something that is like ignorant. And that's why I do think like I'm so uncomfortable right now, but it's like, I'm not trying to be ignorant, but I would rather be that than like defensive and saying dumb shit. That's
exactly.
Awful.
I think owning the fact that like just acknowledging saying I don't know what I don't know, you know, like, and there's just putting that out there and like acknowledging that is, I think
that's what we need more of with politics. I think it's okay to be like, I don't know enough about this. Yeah. And that's why I avoid talking about politics because I don't know what it is. I have actively been overwhelmed by politics my entire life. And therefore, I have never taken the time to do the research. I am fueled by the general humanitarian crisis that I care about.
Yeah.
That's enough for me that I typically lean one way, but I don't know.
But you know what I feel like is really hard, and I've felt this way over the last like several election cycles, that I feel like if you have if you care about certain humanitarian things, that means you have to vote a certain way because like it's either it's acknowledged by that party or it's not.
Isn't it like supposed to be, I don't know, but isn't it kind of like with American politics? It's like you either care about the economy or you care about humans.
And that's what it feels like. And it's like, why can't I care about both? And why isn't there someone who, I think because the way I think what you talked about with journalism changing so much, and then with the way that our news cycles have changed so much, everything is so like grabby. And it's like such a, what do you call that when you're like, they put like these headlines that are just for reaction. Clickbait. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that has taken over the terrain.
So you feel like media is a lot of clickbait?
So much. Okay, and so I kind of like don't really engage with the media very much. But like something that you were talking about earlier when you're talking about like women's rights and like bodily autonomy and stuff, like,
yeah, dude,
there's a politician that was like running more independent, and something that he was saying was like, well, why don't we look at, instead of like shaming women for getting abortions, why don't we look at like all the reasons that women choose to have an abortion?
Yeah.
And how much of that is actually like a fiscal issue, like a money problem, like an income problem, an inequity issue. Why don't we address that? Like if you want to actually like lessen the amount of abortions, if that's important to you,
right,
then like, why don't you actually support women in all these other ways?
Right.
That like, to me, if you're going to be in politics, you have to look at the upstream issue. And I think what happens is a lot of people are so reactive that they can't think upstream.
Yeah.
They can't think of bigger picture or like, what is the actual root cause? They go for like the, you know, this. And what I find really hard is like, okay, there's like a candidate that like as a human, or like the way he talks about like, you know, women and like women's rights and Roe v. Wade and stuff, I feel so icky by. But then it's also like on the other side, like I don't like the way that person engages either. And I haven't really heard in like a well-articulated like thought or policy. And it's just like, there's like, who do I kind of hear what you're saying, that it's like, great. So like by supporting one person, it means that I don't support all of these other things. Yes. And it's super unfortunate that it's like, feels like I'm pigeonholed.
Well, and then it's a trickle down, right? Because then it's like, okay, so because our politics are so polarizing, then of course all of the people are falling into line, and then we're all getting so like, oh, you support this person, that means you think this. And it's like, not necessarily. But I do think that a lot of that has to do with the politicians themselves and how they conduct themselves. And I do think that there's
since we've had kind of the more recent shakeup of like now, like in the last couple of weeks, it's been dirty.
Yeah.
I feel like they're playing really dirty. And it's like, and I keep seeing like these things that are like clips, like comparisons of like the way like McCain and Obama engaged during the debates and the way they talked about each other to each other. It was so respectful.
Yeah.
And like, there was this clip of I've seen both clips where like, McCain was taking a question from an audience member at I don't know if it was a debate. What you're talking about. Yeah. And they start clip. And she starts like talking shit and he's like, no. We don't do that. And and then I've seen Obama do the same thing about McCain. And I just had such respect for the way they respected each other.
Yeah.
And then the way they were openly able to say, like, I disagree with these, like their view on these policies, but as a human, I respect this person. That is not on the playing field right now.
But I think that precedent was set by like certain politicians in the 2016 election. Like there were candidates that just outwardly did not respect the other side and were very vocal. And I think it was a part of their PR, their campaign.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so I do think that set this like precedent of like, well, this guy just threw all, or like, you know, this person threw all this respect out the door. So like, and they got away with it. And it's like, if you aren't being corrected, like John McCain, you know, that was in the 2008 election, I think. I remember when that happened. And like, he was setting a standard of like, just because we disagree does not mean we get to attack the individual person. And the people that I'm thinking of were attacking not policies, but character, because they weren't educated in that election on the actual policies. It was about so much more than that for them. And it did set this like, it was a ripple effect. And now we're looking at politics now, and it's like it is dirty. It feels dirty. Yeah. The way that politicians are talking to each other and about each other, the respect is gone. And it's like, what's hard for me is I do think that like times have changed so much, even since like 2016, even since 2020. Yeah. I think that we are in a very different place to where like, it's just like I was talking about with journalism, how it's shifted. I think American politics have shifted. Mm-hmm. I think they go hand in hand. They do.
But I agree with you. I think kind of they influence each other. So like as one is shifting, it influences the other to shift.
Right.
What do you think has been like the reason why like we have totally lost respect, you know, between politicians? Like, why do you think that like at, you know, in those years, like in 2012, 2016, why it was not tolerated by both candidates, where now it's just kind of, it feels like a bloodbath? I don't have an answer. I'm just curious.
No. What you think. I don't either. All I can do right now is kind of spitball off the cuff because I don't know. And I want to say that first and foremost. Yeah. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard for me with politics because, you know, back then, 2012, we were 17 and 18 years old. I didn't pay attention that much, right? But it felt like the world, like
I just went along with what all my peers were doing.
Well, yeah. And I think what's hard, where I struggle and why I really am not well versed in this, like this particular topic, is that I look back at like 2012 and I'm like, yeah, the world was in a much better state, because right now I am paying attention more and things feel bad, dude. Yeah. Things feel bad and heavy and really serious. And I am in a constant state of existential crisis over how bad things are right now. Politically, economically, human crises, how we're treating the world. All of it is so heavy.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
It's
like,
not.
I think because of the way things are, we're being set up for like a massive, like, I think uncomfy transformative period.
An upheaval of everything we've ever known.
I think so.
But then I like stop and I think like, okay, things feel really bad right now. Yeah. But in the moment, like, let's go back to 2012. Like, I can sit here and be like, well, in 2012, people were less bitey and divided because we were in a better state across the board. Like, our country was just in a better place. People were like, it wasn't great for anyone, any minority group. I'm a white woman and
and if you think about it, in 2008, like, gay marriage was still not a, like, really, I don't even think it was.
No, because it was legalized in 2012.
Yeah, because Obama was like kind of against it in his first election cycle. Like, when he was first campaigning, he made a statement that he doesn't support gay marriage, and then by the second election did.
Oh, he did. Interesting. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to.
Yeah. So and but I don't know if that's like, if the timeline is correct there, or like if it was necessarily one election to the next, but it was. I do know that he changed his view on it, which also, let's talk about that. I think it is so problematic that we demonize politicians. Like, it's usually like in an attack campaign, they attack the other person, the other party, excuse me, for like changing their stance on something. I think that should be celebrated.
Like, you're allowed to change your mind.
You're allowed to change your mind. And I think it is really cool that you can openly say, hey, I used to think this, but I have this new information and I think differently now. I've evolved, or I've changed the way I think about this because of this thing.
Yeah, I admittedly didn't really watch it, but I did read this article, or maybe I saw TikTok. I'm going to just say watch a TikTok. Yeah. I don't know how many articles I read these days. Let's be real. But I watched this TikTok of like, there was someone who was formerly, this was at the DNC. There was someone who used to work with Donald Trump on his campaign, or like in his like political cabinet or whatever. Yeah. Or maybe it was a woman. I don't know. Someone worked in Donald Trump's cabinet and then 4 years later is speaking at the DNC because they had their minds. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying like their minds completely changed and they like made a flip from one party to another. That's crazy and unheard of.
I feel like we're seeing a lot of that now. Like a lot of people are kind of like leaving their party and moving to like an independent or like moving to the other party from like each side. And I think that's also really interesting. But I think it's because the parties themselves have changed so much.
Because that's the thing is I've heard before, and I don't know how true this is because I haven't paid attention in my life, but like to say you are like a Republican or to say that you are a Democrat, that just doesn't really carry the same merit that it used to 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Well, I feel like to say either one is almost kind of laughable right now.
Well, I mean, yeah.
At least I feel that way. I'm embarrassed to say either one.
It's hard because I have let's talk family history for a minute, right?
I would love to do that.
I'm not gonna, my family.
Yeah, what was it like for you growing up? What was the household?
I am like two different families because I have two parents who are not together. My dad's side of the family, like I just don't know them very well and I didn't spend a lot of time with them. But I mean, they're from a small town, rural America. They're red. They're conservative and they don't do any research. They're not educated. They just know I'm the color red, so I lean into it. And that's the extent of their politics. So I don't have a lot to say about them. On my mom's side, my family on my mom's side are all very educated, intelligent people. I respect the hell out of and love the hell out of my mom's side of the family because they're all so fucking like they're just smart and like give a shit. My grandparents, conservative. I don't I think liked all the red people. I remember growing up, my grandma was just so down bad for George Bush. And my mom is very liberal, blue ice in her veins, baby. That she is a liberal. And like, I think what I'm so lucky to have grown up with is a mom who didn't just fall in line with her parents. And my mom she got her degree in history. My mom worked in when we lived in Montana, she worked for something called Project Vote Smart, which is a company that like educated or like a nonprofit maybe that educated college students on like how to vote.
Yeah, that's super cool.
I don't know if that's for sure. My mom's going to listen to this and correct the hell out of me.
She's gonna be like, Kelly, you're so silly.
Best guess, Mom. Just bear with me. But regardless, my mom is very well versed in politics. It's a hobby. It's not just like, and I know, and we'll get to it. I know your mom was the same way, but like it is a passion of hers. She loves the way our government works. She loves our system. She loves law. She wanted to be a lawyer. So she really does her fucking shit. She knows it. She researches it. She's paying attention all the time. Election night is like her fucking March Madness. She's mapping shit out. Like she is horny for the elections. I don't know how I feel about calling my mom horny, but she is. And so growing up, like full disclosure, and my father figure growing up, I think he identified, my mom said he always said this about himself. And I think he's still this way, like libertarian. He's not like, he's not just like one way or the other, but like he leans more liberal. And I think as he's gotten older, he's gotten a little more conservative or leaned into that libertarian more. But it was enough for me that like growing up, it was like, no, blue, like John Kennedy. Okay, I'm fucking 8. I don't know who the fuck John Kennedy is. I don't know anything. Is it John Kennedy or no? It's John Kennedy.
Jerry.
No, John Kennedy. That is his name. John Kennedy. He ran. It was Kerry and John Edwards.
John Kerry.
No,
it's John Kerry.
Am I saying Kennedy?
Yeah.
Oh my.
That's why I was trying to say Jerry. No, it was John Kerry.
I wish I was dead. This is so humiliating. Talk about being, dude, I'm going to watch this back and I'm going to.
Literally 9. I think it's fine.
But like, I'm 30 now and I'm trying to say that like I lived for like a Kennedy election. Like that's embarrassing.
Well, it's funny because it didn't sound wrong.
It didn't sound wrong. John fucking Kerry. Thank you. That was like the first politician. Cause like Bill, like the 90s shit, like I was actually a little kid, but that was like the first election I remember. And I was like, fuck yeah, Kerry Edwards. And it's like, I was 9 who I was just going with what my parents said.
Exactly.
And I think that's really fucking normal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, like it was like after that was like Obama. And like that was just, I remember the energy, like one, I lived in Portland, but also I did think it was so cool to see a Black man running for president.
Yeah.
Like that was inspired. I remember being a teenager and like crying just because I was like, this is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
You literally can do it. Like, I think if I had a moment in my life where I was the most patriotic, it was then, because I was just like, oh my God, you really can be anyone in a place that actively fights against this minority. He fucking rose to the top. Like oh my God, I just was so, and like, you know, again, my parents, like I didn't actually pay attention. I just word vomited whatever I was hearing at school and from my family, two very liberal occurrences. And it was always like the people in my life that were conservative was kind of like, yeah, don't listen to them, you know?
Yeah.
And so anyway, I think that was just, it was so much easier for me to just roll with that than to like actually learn everything there is to know about the parties and our country's history. Like, I'm just not well versed in it. It was easier to just repeat shit. So now I'm at a point where
You're also a kid.
I was a kid. Well, and that's the thing. That's what I mean by like, I just don't know that I've been alive or lived through enough elections for me to like, I have to be able to give myself a little grace. Like, I've only been an adult for the last 3 elections and they've been weird ones.
Yeah. What a weird time to be coming of age.
They've been weird, dude.
Whatever you think about it, it's nuts. Well, and it's funny because so we grew up 2 doors down from each other, and like it was quite the opposite in my household. Like, I grew up with a very conservative mom, but she wasn't always super conservative. Like, she kind of became that way. And it's funny because she also kind of went against the grain of what her parents did. Like, her mom growing up with, well, okay, here's kind of the pattern of what I understand. Like, growing up, that they were a very conservative family. And when she like moved out, she was very liberal.
Oh, okay.
And then at some point things kind of switched, and I don't know when it was. My guess, honestly, I don't even know when it was, but at some point, like, her and her mom both like flipped parties.
Oh, interesting.
Like her mom and then all of her mom's siblings. And then also my mom flipped, but they flipped to like the opposite again. So like, she had grown up with conservative parents and was a liberal, and then she kind of became more conservative, and then her mom and like some of that family had then become more liberal.
Yeah.
So they've never agreed.
Right.
To put it like blankly.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of hostility and drama over the years, a lot of fights and like, you know, leaving dinner parties early because they start talking politics.
Yep.
And it's hard because the other person just cannot. I'm going to leave it there. Just cannot. And it's really hard.
Enough said.
And because they believe so passionately in the thing that they believe in.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, so my parents were also separate households. So it was like different political landscapes between the 2 households. My mom was very conservative. And my dad, because my mom was so political, I was very kind of like immersed or interested or excited about it in the way she was. The radio was always on. The news was always on. Those days it was more radio. It became the news later.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, just
we
like
didn't always have cable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, and I don't think news had really changed yet. Like the way
it has now.
So it was a lot of talk radio. But then I would ask my dad, like, well, you know, like, are you a Republican, Dad? Like, and he was like, I am a small business owner. And so I vote for whichever candidate supports small businesses and whichever one is going to make the most sense for me as a small business owner in terms of like taxes and those kind of things. So that's how I vote. And I loved that answer.
Yeah.
I will say I love that answer now. At the time, I didn't really get it.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, okay. And that was kind of that. But it was like, I just thought it was kind of interesting that like my dad was so like, I wouldn't say like not political, but it's not something that he's like actively like talking with people about or like engaging with. Like, you know, if talk radio's on, it's Colin Cowherd and we're listening, you know, to like sports radio.
Yes.
And then, so that was very different. So that was kind of like,
I wonder if that also had anything to do with him being, is he considered an immigrant?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, because he was born in another country, came here as a kid.
I wonder if that has anything to do with him being an immigrant as well. Like, it would just be so hard for me. Like, I can't imagine moving to another country and having, I mean, yes, he was a kid. So like he grew up here and like became an adult here.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. But I wonder if like
but also grew up in like
he doesn't
Eastern
have,
European household. Like,
yeah,
it's
and
like,
he doesn't have the context, the like America context that I feel like is so ingrained.
You know what's interesting is actually with a lot of immigrants, I find that they are very patriotic in a lot of ways because it's like they came here for the American dream,
right? So
they were like sold that vision. So it's like it's actually kind of, and I find actually a lot of people who have immigrated that I know are actually leaning like more conservative leaning.
No, I know,
which is
crazy.
interesting. Yeah. But so that was kind of like the climate growing up. And then at a certain point, I think by the time I got to like middle school, high school, I like was very resistant to politics because I felt like being kind of like shoved down my throat.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't want fucking anything to do with this.
Yeah.
This seems like a recipe for everything terrible.
Correct.
I don't want anything to do with it.
I mean, the writing was on the wall because it kind of is.
Yeah. So, but then it was kind of like, it was just always very much in the back of my mind. And then growing up in like such a conservative household, I think, and then also having like the resistance to it, I think it kind of made me actually very interested in both sides. Surprisingly, like it made me very like neutral.
Yeah.
So like I remember in high school and we'd be in class and like specifically in our government class. Yeah. Cause we were taking government our senior year and that's when the election was going on. And I remember there was like people who you could tell like their families leaned very conservative and people whose families leaned very liberal. And so then those conversations would kind of come up in class. And I remember sitting there and like, I'm like, I can see both. Like, I see where you're coming from on this, but I see where you're coming from on this. Like, it's not like one or the other. It's not this is right and this is wrong. It's like, I think how we are able to see in a lot of areas, like a lot of gray and not so black and white. And anyway, so then by the time I like was able to start voting, I don't know why, but like I've noticed that, and this is like an observation, I feel like with like younger generations or people in their early 20s, like it is the trendy or it is like the popular kind of thing to do to be more liberal leaning. I don't know if like, and I don't mean that as like a dig to like any like left side of things, but I just noticed that like in the younger generations, that's like what it's kind of more like socially appropriate or acceptable to be. Or do you feel differently?
No, I was going to ask,
or maybe it's where we grown up.
Like I think of it like this. The cliche is that, and I'm not saying I agree with this because again, I will not put this on the internet and be roasted alive, but I feel like the cliche, it's like the saying is that if you're more conservative, you care more about money. If you and like the economy and all that stupid shit that I don't care about, and if you're liberal, you care about more humanitarian crisis. And I do think that Gen Z gives way more of a fuck about humanitarian crisis than any other generation. And I think that if that is kind of true, then like it makes sense that they would seem more liberal because I do think that liberals, it's a part of their like their whole campaign, their whole party identity is like socialism, making things, I mean, not socialism, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like more like socialism ideas, more like, you know, gay marriage, like they're just associated more with the humanitarian side of politics.
It's hard for me because it's like, why can't I care about both money and the economy and humanitarian issues?
Because it was set up that way and it's awful.
Right. And so that's what bothers me is because like I do care about the economy because it dictates what my grocery bill is and if I'm allowed to or able to like afford a home or what my job is going to pay me or what my taxes look like. And I think those are things that you also care about, you know?
They are, but I will say for me personally, like none of it matters if we're like, there's just a certain baseline for me. And I'm not saying it's right where I'm just like, at the end of the day, like money is money, but like, I'm going to be fucking like, I just see it as like right now in this place in my life, I'm going to be fucking broke and struggling. And that's really hard. But then like, you want to take away a woman's right to choose. That's crazy. And that's where I draw and that's a big enough issue for me that I'm like, fine. Like I'm not torn on that. And so it's like, I don't like that I have to feel forced to pick a side. I'm not trying to pick a side here.
Yeah.
But I do think that where the division comes is like, it's about what you prioritize, because taxes and the economy and my grocery, but like, bitch,
but that's what's keeping you broke too. That's the other part. It's like our economy has gotten to a place where like, as a single person in your 30s, it's really fucking hard to live. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that what bothers me is until not like our current, like in our 2-party system, but like the like independent candidate that we had, like he was the first person I heard talking about those things, like where he was talking about like our generation cannot afford to live. And that is a huge fucking problem. And that's what's contributing to all these other things.
Right.
And that I'm like, that is an issue that I do care about. I don't want to stay broke and small and like married to the system. Like I want to be able to have my independence and do what I want. And that shouldn't come at the cost of me like not caring about women or not caring about humanitarian rights or not caring about the health of like my body and our environment. Like I should be able to care about all of those things.
But I think that's where then people get angry, is because I think a lot of people feel that way, right? Because it's like, oh, great. So I tend to lean more towards like focusing, like I've never been anything but broke. And I'm not saying this is right. This is just kind of my perspective, is like, I've always lived in poverty, right? So like as an adult, I've always been impoverished. So as much as it sucks, I am fine, right? Like I'm okay.
Yeah. But I feel like that's like an acceptance.
It is. Yeah. But like, it's not something to where like I get really more overwhelmed by the big humanitarian crisis of it all. Cause like I live in my own apartment and I have a lot of fucking privilege and I have a lot of really nice things. And like, I'm like, yeah, my life could be a lot better and a lot more comfortable. Absolutely. I'm not trying to say that I want to live this way forever. It's fucking bullshit that I went to the grocery store. I got a half a bag of items and I spent $230 to get under 10 items. Yeah. That's
a huge problem.
That's fucking crazy to me.
But those to me are like, that's what's important for me. Like when I'm hearing someone getting up there and like giving their speech about what their policies are going to be, it's like, don't just like shove all this bullshit down my throat. But because a lot of the things that they're talking about, like, I feel like not that I don't care, but it doesn't affect me on a day-to-day basis. And maybe that's ignorant too.
But see, I think I'm the flip-flop. And that's the point I'm trying to make, though, is that for me, like, I'm kind of like, like, yeah, like I really want to be rich, or like, I want to be stable, not rich. Yeah. I want to be stable and comfortable. Yeah. But like,
you're allowed to want to be rich too.
I mean, I do want to be rich, but like, holy fuck, the world is on fire. There's a war. Babies are getting bombed. And I start, like black people are kept at the bottom. And like, I start freaking the fuck out about that. And that's the thing, is like, you can have these two different perspectives. And I think that's where people get fucking pissed, because it's like, what we agree on right here is like, what the fuck, man? I have to pick one. I have to pick either my own individual life and what affects me on the daily, or big picture, the globe. Yeah. What the fuck do I do? Yeah. Either way, I lose, because like, I can care about the whole world, but also I'm one fucking person and I can't change the whole world.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. I don't believe you can, like, I like, vote, but like, also I'm one person. I can't stop a war as much as I want to.
Well, and that's where I get like, kind of like, okay, well, if I can't stop a war, like things that are important to me is like not poisoning our water systems and not using glyphosate and not like,
see, I don't know anything about that, but
you know, like, and not like poisoning our food and like, and giving poor people access to shitty food and keeping them sick and poor. Like those are the things that like really bother me. And to me, like, it is a simple fix, or not simple, but it is fixable. Yeah. Where I get overwhelmed is like places where there's always been war and there's
over
always
things
been
like religion.
Yeah. Exactly. Things resources. That like, and I really, and this is going to make me sound very ignorant, but like I feel like if you can kind of pour into yourself and like get yourself in a more stable place, then you can actually like use your resources to then help other people.
I agree with that.
So I feel like it's hard for me when I feel so unstable personally because of X, Y, Z, and then into a new alphabet. Yeah. Like that, how do I even have a shot at like helping, you know, someone in Palestine or someone in Ukraine or wherever, that I don't even understand the culture. I don't understand the issues. And I know they're like, I understand them on a surface level, but like not in a way that I feel like I can get involved or like, you know, but like what I do understand is like health, and what I do understand is it like environment and like, and those things. So to me, like, I feel like I can affect change in those ways or like participate in it. So, absolutely. But I think that, you know, as soon as I'm just saying this, I don't think that's ignorant, because I don't think it's right to ask people to like be involved in like everything, because not everybody can be an expert or be passionate about everything. So, and all those things are individually important. There are people who are so educated and so passionate about those issues that I'm overwhelmed by. Yeah. And like you're saying, like, you're like, I don't know what glyphosate is. I don't know like any of that shit. Like, but I do. So it's like, it's okay for me to be like involved and like passionate about that. Not everybody needs to. We don't need to all have the same passions. Yeah. And I think that, and I want to be like perfectly clear in that hold on, I don't want to lose my train of thought, and she's slipping away. I am sitting here talking politics. And I have my entire adult life chosen ignorance. Or had an avoidance of politics, right? So, and it's because of something that I think you're speaking to, where it's like, I'm so overwhelmed by all of the things that I have to worry and give a shit about and I feel so out of control with how bad things are. Yeah. What I can control is my day-to-day life. Yeah. What I can control is focusing on me and my life, and maybe everything will fall into place after that. Yeah. Because that is something that is like attainable. Yeah, exactly. I can't stop a fucking war. Yeah. I can't. No. But I think that it's like okay to have I think that it's like people just have different priorities on what they care about. Yeah. And that doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make it wrong. And I completely understand being like, I don't know what else to do. So I'm just going to do my best and focus on me. And like, if I get to a place of stability, then I will have the mental capacity, the emotional capacity, and the monetary capacity to give back to other people or to care about them. Yeah. Or contribute to like causes that you feel inspired. One last thing before you go. There is no us without you. Go like and subscribe to our show on your favorite streaming service, and give us a follow on all socials at Let's Get Taboo. Chat with y'all next time.